Mangwanani Mwalele Povu Kenjani Vaneve Africa. This is the show that keeps you abreast of the latest happenings across the continent. My name is Aina Raiza Koyo alongside Diana Master Morokeni.
Mamukase.
Tamuka.
Monoshinura ere. No, basically what I just asked is the direct translation is, do you wake up?
Oh, then what am I supposed to say?
You can just say, and that's it. Yes, there you go. Now let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. UK nurse faces life sentence for murder of 7 newborn babies. Ramaphosa exonerated by Reserve Bank over Phala Phala farm saga. And Zimbabwe calls for Brics expansion to counter the West's dominance. We'll also be bringing you news from Zambia with Mike Sichula. Stick around, we'll be right back with our top stories after this break.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 115.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune in to Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
In our top story this morning, UK nurse faces a life sentence for murder of 7 newborn babies. A British nurse will be sentenced on Monday for murdering 7 newborn babies and attempting to kill 6 others while they were in her care. Lucy Letby, who is 33, was convicted of killing 5 baby boys and 2 baby girls, making her the UK's most prolific child serial killer in modern history. She was arrested following a string of baby deaths at the neonatal unit of Countess of the Chester Hospital in northwest England between June 2015 and June 2016. The prosecution said Lucy attacked her young and often prematurely born victims by either injecting them with air, overfeeding them with milk, or poisoning them with insulin. Following a trial that started in October, the jury and Manchester Crown Court ended more than 100 hours of deliberations on Friday. The jury cleared Lucy of 2 counts of attempted murder and were unable to reach decisions on 6 other counts of attempted murder.
Getting into our next story, Ramaphosa exonerated by Reserve Bank over Phala Phala farm saga. President Cyril Ramaphosa has been cleared of wrongdoing in the 2020 Phala Phala farm scandal by the South African Reserve Bank. The SARB's investigation was launched last year following allegations made by former State Security Agency Director General Arthur Fraser and complaints laid by various parties. The Reserve Bank probed whether foreign exchange control rules were broken by Ramaphosa since the cash stolen from the president's farm in Limpopo was in the United States dollar currency. Ramaphosa previously claimed to have received $580,000 from Sudanese businessman Hazim Mustafa as payment for livestock. The SARB finalized its investigation last week, but its report will not be made available to the public due to legislative requirements and constraints. The report by the SARB into this matter is a private internal report, the Reserve Bank statement reads. The report found that Ramaphosa did not violate the exchange control regulations. According to the Reserve Bank, the conclusion was reached on the basis that Ramaphosa's company, which manages the game farm, was not legally entitled to the foreign currency. Therefore, the president on Tabanyoni estate had no legal obligation to have declared the cash as required by the law because the buffalo was never delivered to Mustafa.
In our next story, hot spell pushes 0-degree line to record height in Switzerland. A hot spell enveloping Europe has pushed the 0-degree line, the altitude at which the temperature dips into the minus, to record a height of nearly 5,300 meters in Switzerland. The 0-degree line is determined by meteorologists using weather balloons to take off twice a day of Payenne in western Switzerland. Meteor Swiss said the new height was clocked overnight from Sunday to Monday at 5,298 meters, which constitutes a record since monitoring began in 1954. The previous record of 5,184 meters was set on the 25th of July last year.
Moving over, Kenya deploys reconnaissance mission to Haiti. A delegation of Kenyan police officers arrived in Haiti on Sunday. Nearly a dozen senior police officers left the Toussaint Louverture International Airport in the capital Port-au-Prince in armored cars heading to the U.S. Embassy. The Kenyan officers are on a reconnaissance mission to Haiti following the country's offer to help the Haitian National Police in their fight against gang violence. On Friday, UN human rights officials denounced what they called the extreme brutality of gangs in Haiti, with thousands fleeing several neighborhoods in the country's capital this week amid a surge in violence. From January 1st until August 15th, more than 2,400 people in Haiti were reported killed, more than 950 kidnapped, and another 902 injured, according to Ravina Shamdasani, spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The Eastern African country has offered to lead an international effort to help Haiti's understaffed and under-resourced police department. With only about 10,000 officers for the Caribbean nations, more than 11 million people, Haitian police have been unable to quell gang violence that has taken control of almost 80% of the capital.
Mozambique elections, STAE district director resigns in Quelimane. The district director of the Electoral Administration Technical Secretariat in the central Mozambique city of Quelimane City, Asane Osas, has resigned from office for supposedly personal reasons. However, according to Friday's issue of Maputo Daily Notice, Uyamase, is accused of mismanagement of the body, being involved in electoral frauds. We received a letter from Uyamase claiming that they're resigning for social reasons. After we observed the document, STAE accepted his resignation request, said Cristavo Castigo, the Zambezia Provincial Director of STAE. The body, he added, chose Lorenco Fect, who has worked in various positions inside STAE, to replace Asane. Notias is a fortnight late with the news. The election bullet published by the anti-corruption NGO, the Center for Public Integrity, reported that Uyamase resignation on the 4th of August and attributed it to the breakdown of a secretariat agreement he had made with the main opposition party, Renamo.
Now, in Zambia, Cabinet has approved the first ever national refugee policy aimed at ensuring that all matters related to refugees are effectively managed and coordinated. We get into this story and more news from Zambia with Mike Suchula after the break.
Let's head over to the news from Zambia with Master Mike Sichula. Now, several parties have denounced the action of some UPND members who attempted to prevent former President Edgar Lungu from attending a traditional ceremony over the weekend. Master Sichula, how are you? And please take this story.
Africa, good morning. Yes, indeed, this incident happened over the weekend in Zimbabwe district, eastern Zambia, where former President Edgar Lungu was invited by the traditional leadership in that area to attend the Malaila traditional ceremony. So when word went round that the former president was coming, there was a group of UPND officials who were seen getting information from a senior government officer in the district to pass on. She passed on some information, and upon that information, a group emerged from the group, and he proceeded to where the former president was coming into the traditional ceremony, and they caused a lot of confusion, demanding that there you can see in the picture, that's the police confronting one of the leaders in a black mask there. He was the one who took some UPND members to prevent Mr. Lungu from attending the traditional ceremony. He was heard shouting, "We don't want him, he must leave this traditional ceremony." It took the intervention of the host traditional leader and the House of Chiefs traditional leader to contain the situation. So President Lungu was allowed to attend the traditional ceremony, but thereafter, a number of stakeholders have condemned the act, saying that what happened to Mr. Lungu should not be part of the traditional ceremony. Politics should be out of traditional ceremonies.
All right, now, Mr. Sichula, moving on, reports suggest that the Egyptians detained in Zambia in connection with a botched gold deal are actually soldiers in that Arab country. Please give us the full details of the story.
Yes, the information that has emerged from this gold scam that happened in Zambia in the past week, it has caused a number of different stories coming about. But with what investigative stories have emerged is that actually those are some of them are Egyptian soldiers, but the Zambian government has not stated clearly. However, what is making all these things become a source of concern is that the foreign nationals who have been detained their details have not been disclosed, but the details of Zambians, the 4 Zambians who are involved in this, who are suspected to be involved, have been reviewed, and last week they were taken to court, but the matter did not take off because of other legal issues that are still pending. So the information that is coming out is that Zambians now want to know whether those foreign nationals are truly Egyptian soldiers, because the information of them being Egyptian soldiers has come from the Egyptian media, where one of the journalists who identified those that were involved in this deal gone bad to be soldiers, and this journalist was actually arrested by Egyptian authorities. So this is what has been happening. So far, the government has come out to say what you can see there in the picture is not actually gold, but it's something that contains some zinc and some other minerals. But also Zambians are asking, why is it that the Zambian government was quick to say that that was not gold but other precious minerals? So an amount of money of about $5.7 million was recovered, and also some firearms were recovered. So it is yet to be seen what will happen going forward.
All right, Master Sichula, please tell us about the first ever national refugee policy.
As you know, Zambia has in the past hosted a number of refugees from Angola. You talk about the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, and many other African countries that have encountered conflict. But what has not been happening in Zambia is that the integration of some of these refugees into the local community, because we have refugees that have been in Zambia for close to 30, 40 years. and they don't want to go back to their countries. They want to be integrated in the Zambian community, but them being integrating into Zambian community has always been a source of problems between the host country, Zambia, and where these refugees are coming from. So this approval, the first ever national refugee policy, aims at ensuring that all matters related to refugees are effectively managed and coordinated, so that these refugees that are in Zambia should choose either to go back to their countries or be integrated in the Zambian system, and they all receive documentation that is going to help them stay in Zambia.
All right, now, Mr. Sichula, in the last of your stories, on a rather sad note, one person died while his colleague sustained serious injuries after the vehicle they allegedly stole overturned as they sped off from the scene. What went wrong?
This is if you are a student of the religious book, the Bible, it is an issue of the wages of sin is going to lead to death. So a suspected robber has died on the spot while his colleague sustained serious injuries after the vehicle they stole overturned as they speed off from the crime scene. There you can see. So the robbers attacked and robbed a pastor, Pastor Adam Wale, of his Mazda valued. They did attack him on Thursday near the Seventh-day Church. So when they sped off from the scene, one of them, due to overspeeding, the vehicles involved in an accident, as you can see from those pictures. So that's how this case happened, where people now are commenting, because this is just an ordinary crime that normally people would happen, but how it has happened is the issues where you steal from a pastor who was on his way to go and pray for a sick person, and then you get involved in an accident and one of you dies, then the other one is, as we speak, is currently hospitalized. So it is an issue where people are saying it has attracted a lot of comments on social media to say this is karma getting back to the robbers, and where the Bible says the wages of sin leads to death.
Definitely talk about instant karma. Thank you so much, Mr. Sichula, for bringing us the latest news on the ground in Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
We'll now take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa and return with economic news.
In economic news this morning, Uganda power firm Umeme half-year pre-tax profit plunges 82%. Uganda power distributor Umeme Limited pre-tax profit from the first 6 months of this year plunged 82% ahead by rising amortization costs, with the company, which is what the company said on Monday. Pre-tax profit fell to 16.7 billion Ugandan shillings in the first half of this year, down from 92.8 billion shillings in the same period in 2022.
Moving over, Zimbabwe calls for Brics expansion to counter the West's dominance. Zimbabwe has called for the expansion of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa blocs so as to increase its markets and boost the economies of the envisaged expanded organization. Addressing the 6th Brics Medium Forum in Johannesburg Saturday, Zimbabwean Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Monica Muchangwa, lambasted the West's continued economic isolation of Zimbabwe Zimbabwe for over 2 decades. We cannot let the exclusionary nightmare of a solo dash by the West to their 18th to 19th century industrial revolution, oligopoly, mercantile practices come back to haunt the global South. Those were her direct words. Now let's take a look at the economic indicators, proudly brought to you by Bank Vinted, before we get into our sports news with Ari Hohad.
On the 28th of August. It's one of the 4 majors of the year, and it was a very exciting Cincinnati Open that concluded over the weekend, especially in the men's division. It was number 1 and 2 seeds in the world, Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. They battled it out in the final. In the end, it's Novak Djokovic winning a very tough 3-setter. He won it by 5-7, 7-6 and 7-6. So in the world rankings, it will be Carlos Alcaraz that remain number 1 in the world after this, and he will also be number 1 seeded at the US Open, with Novak Djokovic number 2 seed at the US Open. In the women's side of the Cincinnati Open, it was Coco Gauff, 19 years old from America. She had a brilliant win, her first Masters win. She's won 5 titles before, but this was her first big win, and she beat Karolina Moskova of Chechnya in the final by 6-3 and 6-4. Earlier in the tournament, it was Coco Gauff that beat the world number 1 Iga Swiatek of Poland. She beat her in 3 sets, and it was also Karolina Moskova that had a good win against the world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka, also in 3 sets. So it's going to be an interesting US Open coming up. Karolina Moskova was not seeded in the tournament in Cincinnati, so she will go into the top 10 of the world rankings and be one of the top 10 seeds at the US Open. Continuing with MotoGP news, and the exciting Austrian Grand Prix concluded. It's still Francesco Bagnaia that is dominating. He's the points leader by 62 points after winning the Austrian Grand Prix quite convincingly, quite a few seconds ahead of second place Brad Binder of South Africa on a KTM. Francesco Bagnaia, he is racing on a Ducati. In third position was Marco Buccezzi of Italy as well. He is also on a Ducati, and at the moment on the general classifications, the points after the Austrian Grand Prix, it is Bagnaia with 251 points, and he's followed by Jorge Martin, also on a Ducati, on 189 points, and then third is Marco Buccezzi on 183, and it is Brad Binder. He's getting closer to the top 3. He's in fourth position on 160 points on his KTM. The next Grand Prix will be the Catalan Grand Prix. That's only on the 3rd of September, and there's 10 races left, and the last one of the series will be on the 26th of November. That will be Valencia. And to conclude today's international sports news, it is cycling news. It's the Arctic Race of Norway that concluded. It was just 4 stages, a very competitive 4th stage that concluded. It was in the end Clement Champonzen. He is from France. He won the 4th stage in 4 hours and 38 seconds. But in the end, it was a very close finish in the general classifications, the closest in history, and it was Stephen Williams of Great Britain that won the race, but by just 1 second. Doesn't happen too often, but he beat Cristian Scaroni of Italy by just 1 second in the general classifications. The total time for Stephen Williams was 15 15 hours, 38 minutes and 6 seconds, with Scaroni just 1 second behind him. In third position was Kevin Vermaak. He is from the United States, and he was 9 seconds behind the winner. Southern African interest, it was Daryl Impey that also cycled in the Tour. He also did well in the Tour de France recently, and it was Daryl Impey that finished in 43rd position. He was 8 minutes and 3 seconds behind, and he finished 63rd in the fourth and final stage. That is Daryl Impey from South Africa. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day and sport week, and we talk again international sport tomorrow. Goodbye.
You're still with Africa. Good morning. If you're just joining us, here are the news highlights. UK nurse faces life sentence for murder of 7 newborn babies. Ramaphosa exonerated by Reserve Bank over Phala Phala farm saga. Hot spell pushes 0-degree line to record height in Switzerland. Kenya deploys reconnaissance mission to Haiti.